Hi. So a few months ago, my friend Jimmy and I went to Japan for about 3 weeks.
Hey, how's it going?
It was our first bit of travel in a few years since the whole COVID, stuff. And we were pretty excited to get away. I've been shooting film for about 4-ish years now. And this trip was my first vacation where the goal was to actually get through quite a lot of film and essentially document it for a video like this. So I gathered up my extensive film camera collection. I grabbed my Olympus OM1 with a 50mm 1.8. And that's it. That's my only film camera. Or it was, but we'll get there later. I also brought my Lumix S5 II, which I'm filming this on now, for video as well as taking digital photos as well. The Olympus OM1 has been around for a while. I got this from my dad and he picked it up in the mid-70s, I'm pretty sure. Although it's held on quite well, it is starting to get a little tired. Anyway, we definitely shouldn't have been jet lagged because Tokyo is only 2 hours different from Melbourne, but in my efforts to sleep on the plane, I decided to not sleep the night before we left. And then didn't sleep on the plane at all. So after handling that, somehow, we checked into the hostel and the next morning I woke up, we got a coffee and I loaded some Portra 800 into the Olympus OM1 and just took off on foot to get lost in Tokyo. The hostel we were staying at is called Sitan Hostel and it's the place I stayed at the last time I was in Tokyo. It's not particularly in the middle of anything really exciting, but it's got a great cafe on the ground floor and at night there's a great bar in the basement as well. And on top of that it's near like 12 train stations, so if you're looking for a hostel in that area, I'd highly recommend.
Shuts down.
I actually really do like this photo. And not just because I stole the composition from Jimmy. It was my second time in Japan and it was Jimmy's first, so between us we had a pretty big list of things we wanted to see. Not everyone knows this, but Tokyo is just f***ing massive. So the first day we went through Shibuya Crossing and then headed up to Shinjuku, and on the way through stopped at Yoyogi Park. Yoyogi? Yoyogi Park. Yoyogi Park. I don't know. I guess a lot of this stuff is what you would call street photography or travel photography maybe. I don't know, I don't think I've really developed enough of a style for this to be classified under a genre. But the one thing I do have a huge regret on already is the fact that I didn't take more photos of the people in Japan. It doesn't matter how cool you are not as cool as every single person in Japan. I mean, look at this busker.
I want it about
Anyway, I actually doubled up a lot of shots on the OM1 as well as taking the digital shot on the Lumix S5 II. Although it has been incredibly reliable, I was really nervous that the 10 plus rolls I put through the camera would just not work and I'd wind up with no photos. Sometimes it takes like a double wind just to get to the next shot. The light meter's fine, I guess. Not that I trust it that much. Luckily, I don't think that really happened at all. I think they all came back in one piece, like pretty well. After walking around the city all day, we decided to head back to the hostel and sort of reset. Weirdly enough, on the way back to the hostel, we'd actually been talking about how cool it would be to find like a local band playing a gig and go see that. And then as we arrived at the hostel, there was a huge line of people down the street because there was a band playing in the bar that night. These guys were called Breakfast Blend and they were awesome. I'll be totally honest, it was Christmas Eve and the show tunes were flowing, but I still managed to strap the flash on my camera, try and zone focus, which I'm not good at, and then hold the camera above my head and just start snapping away, hopefully getting something in focus and in frame. And I actually did take a bunch on the S5 II as well, just to make sure I did have something in focus and correctly framed. After wrapping up the Portra 800 at the gig, the next day I put in some Ilford HP5 for the next day's exploration, which was essentially just walking around and getting lost in Tokyo again. Our plan for this day was to catch the train to Shibuya and then make our way to Shimokitazawa. Again, sorry if I'm just not pronouncing these right. It feels right to me, but I think I'm getting it wrong. Although I do like a lot of these black and white photos, looking back there was quite a lot of vibrant colours that I wish I'd taken advantage of with some colour film. Again, luckily I did have the S5 II and I did get a couple of photos through that, but would have been nice to have some of these on film as well. We found a lot of really cool stuff in the Backstreets, like this little coffee shop, and this record store with a man just vibing out, listening to some tunes in the front window. All of this was while we were desperately trying to find a toilet. They're kind of hard to find sometimes. Pro tip, train stations. We then made our way to the thrifting district near Shimokitazawa, did some shopping, and then headed back into the city. Also really quickly, just a small rant, if you are in Shimokitazawa, there's this donut shop, please go to it. It's called Universal Bakes 2. I think there's also another store, and I don't know if it's called Universal Bakes 1, but it's amazing. I'm not vegan, but the store is, and these were some of the best donuts I've ever had in my life. I got the glaze and the cinnamon, and I think Jimmy got the lemon glazed. Either way, top tier, highly recommend. It's been months and I think about them a lot. Anyway, the next day we jumped on a train and headed to a small town called Nico. This was actually on my list from last time, but I ran out of time, unfortunately. So I wrapped up the Ilford HP5 as we got off the train, and then I put in some Ektar 100. A good and bad choice? I don't know. Realistically, one of the biggest draws of Nico is this colourful, beautiful bridge that I was excited to take photos of. Also, let's give some context here. The next day, we were on the train to Mount Fuji, another place I'd missed the last time I went to Japan and was really excited to see and shoot on film. As I took the last photo on the Ektar 100, I went to advance it and felt myself completely rip the film out of the canister. And so that was kind of that. I wasn't really sure what to do until I realized that the jacket I was wearing was essentially the same material as one of those film loading tents. So after looking, let's be honest, pretty sus on the train for a minute there, I was able to get the camera inside. How did I do this? I had the camera inside the jacket, and I also grabbed my beanie, and then inside the jacket I was able to get the film out of the camera and into my beanie, and then I tied that up with a hair tie, courtesy of Jimmy. And that's where it lived, in my bag for the next 3 weeks. Did it work? Kinda. Some photos came out really well. Some photos came out a little colour shifted, and some were pretty cooked, if I'm being honest. But considering it was a raw roll of film sitting in a beanie while I travelled and was moved from bag to bag for the rest of the trip, I'm pretty happy with how much of it survived. Here's that beautiful bridge I was talking about. And this is how the photo turned out. And this is the good one. But we continued on, grabbing a coffee at this beautiful hillside cafe, just basking in the knowledge that I absolutely crushed that photo. That's pretty cool. But otherwise, we explored the temples, walked around, picked up some souvenirs. Overall, I have no real idea what I was thinking with the Ektar 100. I mean, I was trying to get that extra saturation and those nice colours of Ektar. Like, realistically, I was going into a dimly lit forest and was trying to use a 100-speed film. It just wasn't my best move. I did finally set up my tripod and take a couple of photos that were correctly exposed. and for the only time this trip used my long lens for the Olympus OM1, but they did not turn out great, so I'm not going to show them. But here's some ones I took with the Lumix S5 II, if that helps. On the train ride back to the hostel, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was really excited to do some night photography. Maybe because I'd just gotten the courage to start using the tripod in public. But despite the fact I had Ektar 100 loaded into the camera, I really wanted to go out there and do some night photography. So that's what I did. For anyone watching this who doesn't know film very well, the quickest way I can explain this is the number next to the film you're buying determines its speed, meaning how sensitive it is to light. You can get Kodak Gold or Ektar 100, or you can get Portra 400 or even Delta 3200. The higher the number, the more sensitive it is, the less light it needs to get an image onto the film. So that means with Ektar 100, my exposures were long as shit. But despite this roll being low speed and then living in a beanie for the next 3 weeks, some of these turned out pretty well. I'm happy with a lot of them. Not this one. Again, thankfully I have my digital as well, but it's definitely not the same, is it? I think I'm gonna have to divide this video up by rolls because I think it was 12 or 13 rolls I took in the end, and this is 3, and it's already going long enough. This is also the first video I'm making, and this is my second time trying to make it, because I hated the first time. Despite this being the first few rolls, which are typically not the best work from the trip, I'm actually pretty happy with how a lot of these turned out. Mainly these ones. And yeah, we can pick it up from here next time, I guess. I don't really know how to end these. Also, you can see how long it took me to record this from the light just moving along behind me. I'm bad at this.